In a distant part of the universe, a dark shadow loomed over the galaxy. Massive cosmic storms raged through space, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. These storms were not like ordinary weather. They were gigantic whirlwinds of energy and chaos that devoured everything in their path. Planets trembled as the storms approached, and entire civilizations faced extinction. Panic spread like wildfire among the alien races. On the home planet of the Galactic Council, representatives from various species gathered in a grand chamber. The walls were adorned with shimmering lights, reflecting the worried faces of leaders. The atmosphere was tense, filled with whispers of fear and dread. "We must do something," shouted a tall, green-skinned Zoraxian. His voice echoed in the chamber. "If we do not act quickly, we will all perish." The other council members nodded, their eyes filled with worry. A Hraxian with its many eyes spoke next. "These storms are unstoppable. They grow stronger every cycle. We need a plan!" But no one knew what to do. The races of the galaxy were great in number, each with their unique skills, yet none had ever faced such a terrifying force. They debated for hours, proposing various strategies, but none seemed to hold hope. As the council members argued, a quiet human representative sat at the edge of the room, observing everything. His name was James Carter. He had come from Earth to share humanity's ideas, but right now, he felt out of place among the anxious aliens. They were all focused on the storms, while he believed in a different approach. Humans had always been resilient and innovative, but their ideas were often overlooked. Suddenly, James stood up, breaking the silence.
"I think we can stop the storms," he said, his voice steady.
The room went quiet as all eyes turned toward him. Murmurs of disbelief spread through the council. "Humans? How can you possibly think you can face such a force?" questioned a Rigelian, its tentacles twitching with irritation. James took a deep breath. "We have been studying these storms. With the right technology, we can harness their energy. Instead of fearing them, we can turn them into a power source." He could see the skepticism on their faces, but pressed on. "We have created machines that can absorb energy from chaotic sources. If we work together, we can not only survive, but thrive." The council members exchanged glances, some skeptical, others intrigued. Finally, the Zoraxian spoke again, his voice softer this time. "What you propose is bold, but if you fail, it could mean the end for us all." "We have nothing to lose," James replied, determination shining in his eyes. "This is our chance to change the outcome of the storms. We can unite our knowledge and resources. If we don't try, we are already defeated." After a long pause, the council began to murmur among themselves. Some were hesitant, but others saw a flicker of hope. Slowly, one by one, they agreed to let humans lead the charge. James felt a wave of relief wash over him. They were willing to take the first step toward a solution. The meeting ended with a plan. The council would send a fleet of human ships equipped with advanced technology to confront the storms. As the representatives left the chamber, whispers of excitement and hope filled the air. But outside, the reality was harsh. The cosmic storms roared through the galaxy, consuming everything in their path. Fear hung heavily in the atmosphere. As the alien races prepared for the worst, James and his team began working tirelessly, hoping they could find a way to turn fear into power. In the heart of the galaxy, as chaos reigned, a small group of humans stood ready to face the unimaginable. They believed that courage, combined with knowledge, could change their fate. Little did they know, the galaxy was about to witness something extraordinary, something that would reshape their understanding of power and fear. And so, the stage was set for an epic battle against the storms that threatened to tear the galaxy apart. The future was uncertain, but humanity was ready to face whatever came next. The day after the council meeting, excitement buzzed in the air on Earth. Scientists, engineers, and brave pilots gathered in high-tech labs, ready to tackle the challenge of the cosmic storms. James Carter felt a mix of fear and hope as he prepared to lead the mission. He knew that the eyes of the galaxy were upon them, and failure was not an option. In the main command center, a large screen displayed images of swirling storms. The storms were vast and powerful, pulsing with energy that could wipe out entire worlds. James studied the images closely, determined to find a way to harness their energy. He turned to his team, a group of talented humans who shared his vision. "Listen up, everyone! We have a huge task ahead of us," he began, his voice steady. "We need to create a device that can absorb the energy from these storms. If we can control the energy, we can use it to help not only our world, but the entire galaxy." The room filled with nods of agreement. Each team member felt a sense of purpose. They had always been innovators, but this project was different. The stakes were high and time was running out. The storms were getting closer, and they needed to act fast. First, they started brainstorming ideas. A young engineer named Sarah suggested, "What if we build a giant energy collector? We can position it near the edge of the storm. It can have powerful shields to protect it from the storm's chaos." The team liked this idea, and they began sketching designs, each contributing their thoughts. As they worked, James thought about the technology humans had developed over the years. He remembered how they had harnessed energy from the sun, and now they were going to do something similar with the storms. "We can use a network of smaller devices that work together," he suggested. "Each one can focus on a specific area of the storm, pulling energy and sending it back to our main ship." Excitement grew as they realized the potential of this idea. They quickly divided into teams, one to work on the main energy collector and another to design the smaller devices. Everyone was focused and determined, each person understanding the importance of their role. Meanwhile, news of the human plan spread through the Galactic Council. Some alien leaders were skeptical, believing humans would fail. Others were curious and intrigued, waiting to see if humanity could deliver on their bold promises. Back on Earth, the team worked day and night. They faced many challenges, from technical problems to lack of resources. But with each setback, they found solutions. James encouraged them to stay positive. "Remember, we are doing this for the galaxy. We are showing everyone that humans can turn fear into strength." Finally, after weeks of hard work, the team completed the energy collector. It was a magnificent sight, huge and shining with lights ready to face the storm. They named it Stormbreaker. As the day of the mission approached, James and his team felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. They were about to do something no one had ever attempted. On the day of the launch, the human fleet assembled at the spaceport. Ships of various shapes and sizes stood ready. As they prepared to leave, James addressed the crew, his voice ringing with conviction. "Today we are not just fighting a storm. We are fighting for our place in the galaxy. We are proving that humanity is a force to be reckoned with." The ships launched into space, soaring toward the storm. As they neared their destination, the sight was terrifying. The storm loomed large, a swirling mass of darkness and light. Fear crept into the hearts of some crew members, but James reminded them, "We've trained for this. We have the technology, and we have each other." With their hearts pounding, they flew into the storm. As they entered, chaos erupted around them. The ships shook, alarms blared, and the energy crackled in the air. But James felt a sense of determination. They were ready to face the storm and show the galaxy what humans could achieve. As the ships navigated through the storm's fury, they activated Stormbreaker, their hopes resting on the device. It was time to transform fear into power and prove that humanity could conquer even the most terrifying challenges. The fleet of human ships approached the cosmic storm, a massive swirling vortex of dark energy. James Carter stood at the helm of the lead ship, the Stormbreaker, watching as the storm grew larger on the screens. His heart raced, but he remained focused. This was the moment they had prepared for, and there was no turning back. "Prepare for entry!" James called out, his voice steady. Crew members scrambled to their stations, checking systems and making final adjustments. He felt a mix of excitement and fear. They were about to enter the heart of chaos. As the Stormbreaker flew closer, the ship shook violently. The storm's power was overwhelming, sending waves of energy crashing against them. Alarms blared, and the crew worked quickly to stabilize their controls. "Hold steady!" James shouted. "We can do this!" With a sudden burst, the ship shot into the storm. The outside world disappeared as swirling colors surrounded them. Lightning crackled, illuminating the darkness. The crew gasped, but James remained calm, urging them on. "Activate the energy collectors. We need to harness this power." The smaller ships in the fleet followed closely, forming a tight formation around the Stormbreaker. Each ship carried smaller energy devices designed to absorb the storm's energy. As they flew deeper into the storm, the atmosphere grew electric. The crew members watched in awe as bolts of energy danced around them, creating a stunning yet terrifying light show. "Energy levels rising!" Sarah, the engineer, shouted from her console. "We're starting to collect energy from the outer layers of the storm." Excitement rippled through the crew. They were doing it. They were pulling energy from the chaos. But the storm was unpredictable. Suddenly, a massive wave of energy surged toward them, knocking the ship sideways. The Stormbreaker tilted dangerously, and alarms rang out. "Brace for impact!" James yelled as he gripped the control panel tightly. The wave crashed against them, sending the ship spiraling. Crew members struggled to regain control, their faces filled with fear. "We're losing power!" a pilot cried. "We need to stabilize!" James's heart raced, but he refused to give in to panic. "Activate the emergency thrusters." "We can't give up now." With a deep breath, he pushed forward, guiding the ship through the storm's chaos. The crew followed his lead, their hands moving quickly over buttons and switches. After what felt like an eternity, the crew managed to stabilize the Stormbreaker. The ship shook violently, but they were back on course. "We did it!" Sarah cheered, relief flooding her voice. "Keep collecting energy," James ordered. They could still harness the storm's power. As the crew worked, they noticed something strange. The storm seemed to be responding to their actions. With every wave of energy they collected, the storm's intensity shifted. "It's like it's alive," James murmured, studying the readings. As they pushed deeper into the storm, they saw strange shapes swirling within. Alien energy creatures danced in the chaos, drawn to the human ships. Some were beautiful, glowing with vibrant colors, while others looked menacing and dark. The crew gasped in awe and fear. "Stay focused," James called out. "We can't let them distract us!" The energy creatures circled the ships, growing more curious. It was as if the storm was alive, reacting to their presence. The crew watched, fascinated, but they knew they had to stay on task. "Stormbreaker is nearing maximum capacity," Sarah announced. "We need to adjust our angle to maximize the absorption." With every passing moment, the storm grew stronger, but so did their resolve. They were close to turning the tide. "Let's do it," James urged. "Adjust the collectors to focus on that surge ahead." The crew quickly followed his commands, their hearts racing. They were determined to make this work. As they maneuvered the ship, a sudden surge of energy erupted, pushing the Stormbreaker backward. "Hold on!" James shouted, gripping the controls as the ship shook again. The crew braced themselves, hearts pounding. They had come too far to back down now. With one final push, the Stormbreaker aligned perfectly with the storm's core. The energy flowed into the ship, and the collectors hummed with power. Cheers erupted among the crew. "We're doing it! We're really doing it!" In that moment, they felt a rush of triumph. They had faced the storm, and now they were transforming it into something beautiful. The galaxy had watched their journey, and now they were proving that fear could be turned into strength. James smiled, knowing they were on the brink of changing everything. They were not just humans anymore. They were pioneers, standing against the storm and turning chaos into hope. As the Stormbreaker absorbed energy from the cosmic storm, the crew celebrated their success. But the excitement was short-lived. James Carter could feel the tension building both inside the ship and across the galaxy. While they harnessed the storm's power, other alien factions were watching closely, their interest turning to suspicion. Back at the Galactic Council, leaders from various planets were gathered. News of the humans' success spread like wildfire, stirring both fear and intrigue. "They are taming the storm," exclaimed a representative from the planet Zorath, his eyes wide. "What if they gain too much power? We cannot let that happen." Another leader, a sleek, silver-skinned alien named Zelon, replied with a snarl, "Humans are unpredictable. They may use this energy against us. We must act quickly." The council chamber buzzed with whispers and concerns. Tensions rose as they debated whether to intervene in human affairs. Meanwhile, back on the Stormbreaker, James gathered his crew in the command center. He could sense that their mission had shifted from simply harnessing energy to something more significant. "We need to stay vigilant," he said, his tone serious. "If other factions see us as a threat, they may try to stop us." Sarah, the engineer, nodded. "We should increase our defenses. If they come after us, we need to be ready." The crew agreed, and they began modifying the ship's shields and weapon systems. As they worked, James couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking a tightrope, balancing between opportunity and danger. As hours passed, the Stormbreaker continued to collect energy. The storm pulsed with life, responding to their actions. But James noticed something strange. The energy readings were fluctuating wildly. "What's happening?" he asked, leaning closer to the console. It seems like the storm is reacting to the energy we've collected, Sarah replied, furrowing her brow. It's almost like it's becoming unstable. The crew fell silent, exchanging worried glances. They had come so far, but now they faced a new challenge. Suddenly, an alarm blared. "Incoming ships detected!" a crew member shouted. James's heart sank. "From where?" he demanded. The crew quickly analyzed the readings. "It looks like a fleet from the Zorath system." Panic spread through the command center. "Prepare for battle!" James shouted, adrenaline pumping. "We need to protect the Stormbreaker and the energy we've collected." The crew rushed to their stations, tension hanging thick in the air. This was no longer just a scientific mission. It had become a fight for survival. The Zorath ships appeared on the view screen, sleek and menacing, their weapons primed for attack. James took a deep breath, steeling himself. "We can't let them take what we've worked so hard for. They may think we're a threat, but we're here to help." The Zorath ships opened fire, bright beams of energy streaking toward them. "Shields up!" James yelled, gripping the control panel. The Stormbreaker shook as it absorbed the impact, but the ship held strong. "Return fire!" The crew fought back with determination. They fired their weapons, bright blasts illuminating the storm around them. Each shot was filled with the hope of humanity, but the Zorath fleet was relentless. "Direct hit on their lead ship!" a crew member shouted, exhilaration and fear mixing in their voice. But the Zorath ships regrouped, their numbers overwhelming. James knew they had to think quickly. "We need a plan," he urged. "If we can outmaneuver them, we can escape back into the storm." The crew worked together, strategizing amidst the chaos. As they executed the plan, the Stormbreaker twisted and turned, dodging incoming fire. James focused on the storm ahead. "The energy we've collected can give us the edge we need. Let's use it to boost our speed." With a surge of energy, the ship rocketed forward, weaving through the Zorath ships. The storm responded, pulling them deeper into its chaotic embrace. James felt a rush of hope mixed with fear. They were risking everything. "Keep collecting energy," he shouted to Sarah and the crew. "If we can harness enough power, we can turn the tides." The crew pushed their limits, pouring all their efforts into the Stormbreaker's systems. As they entered the heart of the storm, the chaos around them intensified. The Zorath fleet followed closely, unwilling to let their prey escape. "They're not giving up!" Sarah yelled, her fingers flying across the controls. "Hold on!" James warned as the ship shook violently. The storm raged, and the energy around them surged like a wild beast. But James knew this was their chance. They could use the storm to their advantage. With determination, he steered the Stormbreaker into the eye of the storm, where chaos turned into a moment of calm. The Zorath ships struggled to keep up, and James seized the opportunity. "Now, release the energy surge!" With a powerful blast, the Stormbreaker unleashed a wave of energy, stunning the Zorath fleet. The crew cheered, a mix of relief and exhilaration. They had fought against impossible odds, and for now they had won. As the storm raged on around them, James felt a surge of hope. They were not just surviving, they were thriving. Humanity had shown its strength against the rising tensions of the galaxy, and this was only the beginning. As the Stormbreaker settled into the eye of the storm, a strange calm washed over the crew. They had escaped the immediate danger from the Zorath fleet, but James Carter knew this was not over. The Zorath ships would regroup, and they would come back stronger. The storm still pulsed with energy, and the crew's hearts raced with the thrill of victory, but fear lingered in the air. "Prepare for battle stations," James commanded, his voice steady. "We can't let our guard down. They'll be back." The crew quickly moved into action, checking their weapons and energy systems. Sarah, the engineer, monitored the ship's energy levels, her brow furrowed with concentration. "Energy levels are high," she reported. "We can unleash another powerful burst if needed." James nodded, feeling a surge of hope. This storm was their ally now, and they needed to use it to their advantage. Minutes passed, but the crew stayed alert. Then suddenly the alarms blared again. "Zorath ships incoming!" a crew member shouted, pointing at the view screen. James's heart sank as he saw the fleet emerging from the storm, more determined than ever. "They've regrouped quickly," James noted. "We need to strike first!" He gripped the control panel tightly, ready to lead his crew into the fray once more. "Prepare to engage!" The Zorath ships moved swiftly, firing their weapons at the Stormbreaker. Bright beams of energy lit up the darkened sky, but James remained focused. "Evasive maneuvers," he shouted. The crew sprang into action, dodging incoming fire as they maneuvered the ship through the chaotic storm. "Return fire!" James commanded, and the crew responded with precision. Bright blasts shot from the Stormbreaker, striking the lead Zorath ship. It shook violently but stayed in the fight. James knew they had to end this quickly before the enemy overwhelmed them. "Keep an eye on the energy levels," Sarah shouted over the noise of alarms. "We can't afford to drain ourselves." The crew worked in perfect harmony, each member knowing their role and executing it flawlessly. As the battle intensified, the storm raged around them. The swirling winds and lightning created a dangerous backdrop, but James felt a rush of adrenaline. They were fighting not just for survival, but for the future of humanity. "Boost our energy collectors," he yelled. "We need to harness more power." The crew complied, and the Stormbreaker glowed with energy. James could feel the ship becoming more powerful, and with it, their chances of victory increased. The Zorath ships began to close in, their numbers overwhelming. "We need a plan," Sarah shouted, her eyes wide with concern. "If they get too close, we're in serious trouble," James thought quickly. "Let's draw them into the storm," he said. "If we can lead them to the center, we can use the energy against them." The crew exchanged nervous glances, but there was no time for doubt. "Let's do it," one crew member shouted, and they all rallied behind James's plan. They maneuvered the Stormbreaker deeper into the storm, leading the Zorath fleet with them. As they flew through the chaotic winds, bolts of energy crackled around them. "They're following!" a crew member yelled, excitement and fear mixing in their voice. "Hold steady," James commanded. He knew they had to be careful. If they could harness the storm's energy one last time, it would change everything. As they reached the heart of the storm, James felt the energy swell around them. "Now, release the energy surge!" he shouted, and the crew responded in unison. A brilliant wave of energy erupted from the Stormbreaker, surging toward the Zorath ships. The storm amplified the blast, creating a dazzling display of light. The Zorath fleet was caught off guard, and their ships were thrown into disarray. "Direct hits!" a crew member cheered, watching as several Zorath ships spun out of control. The Stormbreaker was a beacon of hope amidst the chaos, and the crew's spirits soared. But the Zorath leader was determined. "Regroup and fire back," he commanded. "They cannot defeat us." The remaining Zorath ships aimed their weapons, preparing to strike back. James felt a chill of fear. They had to end this now. "Get ready for one final push," he shouted. The crew focused all their energy into a massive blast, channeling every ounce of power they had collected from the storm. With a roar, the Stormbreaker unleashed a torrent of energy that lit up the storm. The Zorath fleet was engulfed in the brilliant light, and James watched as their ships faltered. One by one, they were taken down. Cheers erupted among the crew as they realized they were winning. The Zorath fleet was retreating, their once mighty force crumbling before the human spirit and the power of the storm. As the battle faded, James felt a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. They had faced the storm and emerged victorious. The galaxy had witnessed their strength, and for the first time, humanity had turned fear into hope. "We did it!" James shouted, his voice filled with pride. The crew cheered, knowing they had proven themselves against impossible odds. They had harnessed the storm, and in doing so, they had changed the course of history. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again.